Sorry that I couldn't get this full screen or something like that. OBS does whatever it wants on my computer. But to celebrate the announcement of Great Ace Attorney Chronicles, I figured now's a good time to make a dumbass tier list of all the Ace Attorney games. Just based on my opinion, of course. And I'm gonna immediately put Professor Layton versus Ace Attorney here. What the hell is that? Can you guys see this? There's a black line there. Whatever. This is the only one I haven't played. So I figure might as well get that out of the way. Now, let's see here. First game. Alright. Where do I put this one? Well, I'm once you drag it out, I guess it's stuck there. Now I can't remove it. Oh, never mind. Well, of course it's the first one in the series, but it wasn't quite there yet, I think. A lot of characters are... Well, not a lot of them, but there's a lot of weird shit in it. Like, Edgeworth is really out of character in this one. Because he was kind of a one-note villain, then he tried to redeem himself at the end. But he doesn't really act like how we know and love him. Like, go from Ace Attorney Investigation to that and you'll see, you know exactly what I mean. And I also don't like, the thing about Ace Attorney is that there's a lot of problems with pretty much all the cases. A lot of small stuff that doesn't really make sense or are never really explained. For example, in the second to last case, oh, by the way, there's gonna be spoilers for every game. I'm gonna try to keep it to a minimum past the original trilogy as much as I can. At the very least for Great Ace Attorney, of course. Anyway, in the second to last game, literally before the trial, they go, oh my god, the prosecutor is von Karma, he's undefeated and he's basically a god. Why haven't you talked about him previously in the game if he's that influential and great? Even Godot in the third game was introduced the day before the trial. I think that's how you're supposed to pronounce that. I think it's good, but out of all of them, I think this also has the most solid music. Like, a lot of memorable tunes are in this one. A lot, they have been referenced in many games, Ace Attorney games, of course, and for a reason. The melodies themselves are really good. Now, this might be a bit of a controversial one, but I don't think I really like this game that much. The last case is really good, but you have to go through 3 really bad ones to get to that. I really don't like the first case and how every game needs to have a reason for you to have a goddamn tutorial. Because there's always has to be, oh, by the way, this is how you play this game. And this one, he gets amnesia, and then he gets his memories back. Except everyone should play this in order, so it's just frustrating. And Franziska von Karma can be okay, but most of the time she's just saying foolishly, foolish, fool, and whip people. It gets old really fast, so it's on borderline bad. I'm not sure where I should put this. It's for the last case, and I really like Pearl as a character as well. The second case was also pretty good. I liked the twist with the sisters. I thought it was actually kind of heartbreaking, in a sense. She had a very tragic backstory, and I actually got a lot of sympathy for her. And also the Naginata, I forget the word, system is really, really odd. Of course, I have the same problem as everyone else. Why doesn't it activate in court? if it can spot lies that well. Because this series is full of goddamn bullshit, that's why. There's no real reason. It's somewhere in between here and there. It depends on my exact mood where I'd put this. Like, of course, all of these are very subjective, except this one at the moment. But for now, I'd put it in lowest or highest bad. Now, the third game, of course, it is the best in the original trilogy, by far. I It wraps up the original story really well. I think it doesn't tie all loose ends together, but most of them. There's a few unanswered questions to this day, by the way, like what happened to Morgan, of course. Dahlia was a good villain, but I can understand when people say she was kind of shoehorned in the last game. She should have been introduced in the previous game, or a bit earlier than that. It also comes back to the fact I think they killed Mia way too early. She should not died in the second, because we barely got to know her. Second case in the first game, of course. Here she's a bit more fleshed out as a character, but in the previous two she's, hi, I'm your mentor, I'm dead now, also I have big boobs. Basically it. Now they still use her beauty and particularly boobs as jokes, but she feels, as I said, it really got to help that we got to see her start and rivalry with Dahlia, and added some depth to her character, and that she, of course, the entire thing with Terry, which is, God, it's still hard to watch that. I also, this hasn't anything to do with this game in particular, but I really like Phoenix and Maya as a unit. I know a lot of people don't really ship those two because, well, they're just friends. I beg to differ, but I think that they are what drives this original trilogy. They're just so fun together. Him being the stray man to her complete madness. Even when she returns a few years later, she's still that ditz that everyone likes. Ah, what a good game. And of course, the last case is the best in the entire franchise. Is that, or the last one is in the second game that I forget the name of right now. I can't remember, but the last one of this game is called Bridge to the Turnabout, something like that. Fantastic ending. And as for Apologistice, you know what? After much consideration, it is by far the worst in the entire goddamn franchise. Sorry for that. This one looks a little funky, but oh my god, it's so terrible. There are two games I can think of that trigger my little fanboy rage. This is one of them. The other is that horrible sequel to Tales of Symphonia, but that's a tale for another day. I was in denial for years at how terrible this game was. I was like, my mind couldn't comprehend that there was a bad Ace Attorney game. But here it is. The cases suck. The premise is terrible. Like, literally the moment this guy that you spent 3 games with, like, at the end of the last game, you're like, oh, I have nothing less to teach you. You're now a fully fledged attorney. Literally the next case after that, he loses his badge and waits 7 goddamn years to get it back. Bullshit. You tell me, with all the friends that he has, ties to the police and other attorneys, he couldn't have gotten help with that faster. Even Franziska would fly all the way back from Germany and be like, I'm not gonna, no one defeat you in court but me, I'm gonna get whoever set you up. It's the dumbest goddamn premise, and he acts completely out of character. The hobo Phoenix, as people call him. And no Maya, just mysteriously gone. What else? Kristoff is a fun villain, yes, but it's really not worth it. And they try to end it with, oh, this is the actual end of the franchise. We want to have a world where there's only jurors and no attorneys anymore. Some really dumb shit like that. Like, what are you trying to... You're deliberately pissing on the 3 games that you spent building up. Oh, no, they don't matter. Phoenix, he lost his badge now. Now there's this guy who we've never talked about, and he's younger and hipper. And look, he has an even younger assistant. It's so fuck. As I said, it's one of the few games that really makes me mad. Sure, the graphics and sound for its time were fine, I guess, but it doesn't make up for it. And there's also the fact that Emma Sky is completely out of character too. Granted, 7 years, but goddamn, this is not a good game. Easily skipped. Because the next one basically ignores that. The problem with these ones, this one in particular, is I can't really remember much of it. Athena was fine. I liked the mood matrix. Simon was, from what I remember, it was good. And that's it. I can't really invoke much emotion from it. I do remember small things, I guess, like the character who pretended to be a boy. That was fun. What the hell was his name? Aristotle Means was fun, but as over the top as you can get. Overall, shrug. It's like, whatever. You know what, I'm gonna put this in bad after all. Now we have a perfect little tree here. I think that's the worst offender. If I can't really remember much from the game, then whatever. It also has a DLC case where we defend an orca, so I mean, I remember that much. But at the very least, they brought Phoenix back, but that should not be a thing to begin with at all. You should have worked alongside Apollo in this game, as it should have been. They could have just said that he went on a break or something. This game is terrible. Skip it. You can go directly to this one. You won't really miss much. Apollo is not fleshed out in this game at all, like the Apollo Justice game. But this one, they try to develop him a bit, but not by much. Of course, you can also argue, they introduced another new character, which was the problem to begin with, but Athena's fine. And I think I'll put this one here too, because, again, I can't really remember. I think it's better than this one, though. Though not by too much. I'm glad they brought Maya back, but, again, that should not have been a thing in the first place. They should have just had her be there in this piece of shit. But what can I remember from it? The setting was alright. I liked that there was a country based on Korean village. Again, it has a lot of problems, but all in all, sure, it's borderline good. Like, it's between here somewhere. Now that I think about it, it's actually a bit better than I remember. I didn't like the attorney in this one. I don't remember his name, but he shoved anal beads in everyone's faces. All in all, nah, I guess, but borderline good, because I don't remember being pissed about it, at the very least. And as I said, it's really fun to have Maya back, even though this is more Apollo's game, but I'll admit, he's actually more fleshed out as a character than Phoenix. Like, who's Phoenix's parents, for example? And Dirk was a goddamn badass. Duke, I don't remember his name now, actually. I think Dirk. Yeah, it's Dirk, something like that. A dragon never yields. Yeah, it has some memorable things about it. And, of course, I did like the evil queen at the end. My kind of Ace Attorney over the top. Even though she should have won right there and then just written a law like, all attorneys should be executed. But video game, sure, whatever, but still. Yeah, between here and there, like the borderline, as I said. Great Ace Attorney 1. This is a really good game, actually. I'm glad this one is getting localized. Now, from what I understand and what I've seen from this game, it's basically they take a lot of elements from Layton versus Ace Attorney, like the jury examination. I don't remember what that system was called, which was also pretty good. Didn't feel too, should I say, out of place for the series. Oh, before I forget, there's actually one thing about this game that I really like, and that's the seance mechanic. Because here they actually explain why it only works in court. That's because it's a ritual that's only performed then. So, okay, fine. Anyway, great Ace Attorney. I like the setting too. The if you since it takes place in late 1800s, I think it takes place in 1898 to 99, something like that, or really early 1900s, like 1902, something like that. I can't remember. But since it takes so far back, but still somewhat contemporary, they have the disadvantage that you can't. What the modern science, of course, they don't know what DNA is. You can't really. There's no really good way to investigate as it was back then, which is, of course, one of the reasons why Jack the Ripper went free. Had we had modern technology, then probably would have been different. And they also don't have that spiritual bullshit. Well, not too much of it. It's science fiction, sure, but they try to ground it somewhat in reality to keep it more steampunkish. Sorry, something in my nose, which I kind of like. I'm not the biggest fan of this game's take on Sherlock Holmes, or Herlock Sholmes as he'll be called in the localization, which makes sense because this Sherlock Holmes is a goddamn idiot. Literally, one of the mechanics is cleaning up his shit because he gets all the deductions wrong and you have to correct them. If you base a mechanic around how bad another character is, you should probably rethink it. That means it's probably not that great. Anything else? I liked the introduction of Gina. She was in the last case. I'm not going to talk too much about it because these games are technically coming out for the first time here in the West, but you'll know her when you see her. It had some good twists and turns here and there, but I can't blame them for taking liberties with the Sherlock Holmes mythos, but I think they could have done a little better job. Like Iris, Watson is a little girl in this version, basically. Yes, I know Watson is from the books is technically her dad, and she's technically the one that writes the Sherlock Holmes books, and I don't think that's too much of a spoiler. It's in the second case, something like that. They introduce it fairly early, and it's not treated as a plot twist or anything like that. Not from what I remember. And Great Ace Attorney 2. You know what? This one is almost as good. No. If this game, if Ace Attorney 3 is a, if you're gonna call it that, is a 10, I'd say this one is a 9. I wouldn't actually rate them that much. I'd say this is an 8 and this is a 7.5 or something like that. But I was really surprised. I thought one of the many criticisms I have with Ace Attorney overall is the term filler case. Meaning that there's a lot of cases that don't really add up to anything in the grand scheme of things and are just there for, as the name suggests, filler. But these two games, and these ones that I'm gonna get into, say no, the cases from the previous games are gonna matter. At least somewhat. These one have, I think there's at least one filler case of one that don't really add too much. And I think they wrap it up pretty nicely. I don't think there should be a third game. There's a few unanswered questions, of course, like if this guy is Phoenix Wright's descendant, no, ancestor. Did these two really bang then, or was it someone else? That's not a spoiler, by the way. If this guy doesn't get laid, then this guy won't exist. But anyway, as I said, I like that it tries to wrap up the two games, and it threw me for a loop at the very end. The victim I did not expect that, honestly. But the villain is pretty obvious. But as I said, there's a few details that I was like, okay, you got me. That was pretty good. And both these games have the same music and take place in the same engine. And the music is really damn good. It's almost up there with Ace Attorney 1. You can also play this without playing all these other games, which is why it's actually pretty good for beginners, I'd say. If you never played Ace Attorney before, then Great Ace Attorney Chronicles might be a good place to start. Two games that are pretty self-contained, no reference to the other ones, basically. And they're great. No pun intended. For this one, God. On one hand, I keep saying that, I know, but I have a lot of hands, I guess. On the somehow fifth hand, I guess, it's not ill put together, but it's not very memorable. I like that you can walk around instead of just being a visual novel style that you point and click on a screen and you examine stuff. Makes it a bit more intuitive, I'd say. But I didn't like Kay that much. I can't remember his Lang, I think his name is. The antagonist is not that memorable either, and the last case goes on for a goddamn eternity. It's just meh. I don't really have that much to say about it. Like, whatever. Now this game though is up there with this. I am very unsure about the order of these three, but I think this one should be it. Yacht and Kenya 2 is the best one, aka Ace Attorney Investigations 2. Localize this game, Capcom. Make a Ace Attorney Investigation Chronicles or something like that. The people need to play this game. It is fantastic. It solved, at the time, this came out before the Great Ace Attorney, by the way. It solved so many issues I had with the other games. For example, filler cases, gone. Every case matters in this one, and they're wrapped up nicely. It actually feels like it's building up to something. And something that took me by surprise, actually. Like, I realized it relatively early into the last case, but I was like, no way, they actually didn't. And then I thought about it, wow, oh my god, they actually did. Well played. I'm not gonna go too much into details because this hasn't been released yet, but it really should. This one is really goddamn good. And music is great as well. The characters, most of them are pretty good. I didn't like the judge that much, but they tried to give her a little depth, but it happens towards the end. And the prosecutor in this one is a bit of an idiot, but they actually play for drama towards them. I'm not gonna talk too much about it, but I was like, wow. That's actually pretty good. And it also fixes every problem I have with Ace Attorney Investigations 1. It had good gameplay, but didn't really utilize it. This one does. With a great story to boot, this is a very memorable game. By far one of the best. Now keep in mind the exact order of these aren't set in stone except for this piece of goddamn. As well as this one, of course, I haven't played it. I hope I will one day. I don't think it will be great, but you know what? It'll be fun. Especially this Met here. I think this. Yeah, no, I actually don't know. This one might be meh, depending on some days, as I've said. But for now, I think this one looks good. These three are by far the best, and ironically, they are the last games in their respective trilogy or duology or however it's called. Gotta save the best for last, I guess. I am looking greatly forward to the great Acetone Chronicles. You should buy it too, because those two games are really good. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next time.